Hello there, Brick Fanatics! The first crop of 25th anniversary LEGO Star Wars sets have been revealed, and if these end up being the blueprint for everything we see with LEGO Star Wars in 2024, then this may well change everything for this theme. The short version is that we're seeing a lot of really cool LEGO Star Wars ships shrink in size, with mid-scale sets that are more affordable and more accessible to a larger number of LEGO Star Wars fans. At the same time, we're seeing LEGO sets which are aimed at a younger demographic, the 8+ and 10+ audience, being beefed up a little bit, given a little extra level of detail, which means that not only do they appeal to that target demographic, but also they appeal to older LEGO Star Wars fans, which may be willing to kind of dip down into the more childish LEGO sets in order to find something which, let's be honest, is fairly timeless and has no specific age limit to it. Thus we see a kind of meeting of the two sides of the LEGO coin, with sets aimed at older fans, the 18+ very lucrative market, having smaller sets that are more accessible and more affordable, and at the same time sets that are ostensibly aimed at younger audiences, giving a little extra level of detail in order that both kind of meet in the middle. There's one very clear clue that these two sides of the LEGO Star Wars 25th anniversary sets are meant to kind of meet in the middle, and that is the packaging design for the latest wave of LEGO sets that are aimed at younger fans. Just before we go any further, make sure, by the way, that you give this video a thumbs up. Doing so genuinely helps the channel because it helps more people to see these videos. Very quickly, let's run through all of the LEGO sets that were revealed last week. 75387 boarding of the Tantive 4, 75379 R2-D2, 75375 the Millennium Falcon, 75376 Tantive 4, and 75377 the Invisible Hand. Of these 5 LEGO sets, 2 are aimed at the 8 or 10+ audience, and 3... Of these 5 LEGO sets, 2 are aimed at the 8 or 10+ audience, and 3 are aimed at the 18+ audience, but in practical terms there's no real difference between which sets are aimed at grown-ups and which sets are aimed at younger fans. The first and most obvious thing that jumps out about these LEGO sets is that the starships have gotten smaller, which follows a trend across many different LEGO sets of various different themes. Ostensibly, it seems that people want smaller LEGO purchases. We don't necessarily want to have to drop £200 or £300 every time we go into the LEGO shop. I mean, we do, but we don't want to. It's kind of an accident. We don't aim to do that. With everybody tightening their wallets around the world, the LEGO Group has been specifically designing LEGO sets with a smaller footprint and a smaller price tag in mind. Take, for example, the recently released Kingfisher. It's deliberately small. It's never supposed to be a giant, majestic bird. It's a more or less life-size Kingfisher, and it works very well for that reason. The enormous, fairly expensive Ultimate Collector Series sets have always been a big part of the LEGO Star Wars experience, but what if you don't necessarily want to have the £700 8080? Maybe you just want something that can sit on your desk that's nice and small, that can be built in a few hours, and is just nice to have. And if that's the case, then the LEGO Group has now got you covered. There's been experimentation with these smaller display sets over the past few years, and it doesn't seem like the LEGO Group really loves to stick with one particular design style over a long period of time. First off, we had all the helmets, at a point where we'd kind of run out of helmets that needed to be given the brick-built treatment. We started getting these Diaramas. And while the Diaramas were nice for 2023, apparently there's not many of them coming in the near future if rumours are to be believed. Rumour has it we will be getting one Diorama this year, a Bunta Eve Podrace Diorama, and that then probably isn't even going to be at minifigure scale. So I guess the LEGO Group is now going all in on mid-size LEGO starships. Last year we had the Executor, which is pretty brilliant, and now we've got the Millennium Falcon, the Tantive 4, and the Invisible Hand. So now these sets are smaller and cheaper, and that's brilliant if you don't want to have the Millennium Falcon take up your entire living room. I love the pictures that they choose to advertise these sets, which give off the idea that a LEGO collector will have just the one big set on display in their otherwise entirely LEGO-free house. And we all know that's not how it works in practice, but if we were to actually do what we are told to do, then we should go into the shop, buy one giant LEGO set, and just have it on display on the coffee table so that anyone who comes in says, "Oh, I guess you really like LEGO, although I don't see any other LEGO in your house." Now, obviously you watching have an enormous basement in your house that is absolutely filled with every single LEGO set possibly imaginable, but other people put different things in their basement, chains and whips and skeletons and stuff. So that being the case, the LEGO Group needs a LEGO Star Wars set that can be put on display that is not going to take up an entire wall. The other side of this, though, is that sets like the Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon were never very practical for, say, younger LEGO Star Wars fans who want to have a meatier, larger challenge, but who don't necessarily have access to the disposable income of a working grown-up. I'm thinking specifically of the teenage crowd, because a lot of that 18 plus branding on these Lego sets is not necessarily about specifically appealing to adults, but rather appealing to anybody who likes a really nice Lego set but who doesn't feel like they want to buy the cheap kids ones. Part of the 18 plus branding is to specifically appeal to the kinds of grown-ups who might feel a little bit squeamish about buying a children's toy. No, this is an 18 plus set. You're a grown-up if you buy that set. But the other side of that is that it also appeals to the 14, the 15, the 16-year-olds who want to feel a little bit more grown up. A lot of younger Lego fans take particular pride in building a Lego set that has an age rating that's higher than their current span of time on planet Earth. To that end, a smaller, more affordable Lego Star Wars 18 plus build is going to appeal not just to grown-ups, but also to all the kids who are working their part-time jobs, saving every penny that they can in order to buy more Lego. And salute to you, because you are brilliant if that is you. Thinking back to my own time as a teenage Lego fan, these are exactly the kinds of Lego sets that would be going on my Christmas list, because they're fantastic, and because I know that my parents would not have bought me a £500 one had that been an option in 2005. This is excellent news in general because, let's face it, just as the age rating on a Lego set doesn't actually mean anything, so too there are no real boundaries or barriers between Lego fans of different ages. Somebody who is very young can enjoy a display piece, somebody who is very old can enjoy a set that's more aimed at play. It's all fine, everybody can play with whatever they want. That's kind of the point of Lego, build it your way. And indeed we also see this on the other side of the coin with the R2-D2 and the Tantive 4-boarding diorama. At first glance, the new R2 looks like nothing more than a smaller, scaled-down version of the larger, more expensive 75308 R2-D2. The devil, though, is in the detail, because while yes, this is ostensibly another brick-built R2-D2, what's interesting is not the ways that this is similar to the previous R2, but the ways in which it is different. To that then, let me ask a question. What do you get from a slightly smaller 1000-piece R2-D2 that you don't get from a 2000-piece R2-D2? If we look at the promotional photos for these two sets, we see very little difference. With the new R2, here is an incredibly bored-looking little girl playing with the set. On the grown-up side, here is an incredibly bored-looking adult playing with the set. These are just funny pictures in general. Apparently they didn't want any enthusiastic photos of a brick-built R2. This woman genuinely looks like she's contemplating whether or not she's filed her tax return yet. Either way though, we have some pictures of models interacting with the sets, and we have the sets on display. And in practical terms, the new set does exactly the same as the old set. It can be played with a little bit, or it can be put on a shelf. It works just the same. So then, right off the bat, for Lego fans who are looking for a display piece, no matter how old they are, this set works very well. It works just as well as the old one, has a slightly smaller footprint, has a much lower price tag. What then is lost from making this set slightly smaller? Basically nothing. I mean, for a while at least, both of these sets are going to be available on the market and people can choose which ones they want. But if you've not already picked up a £200+ R2-D2, then you're probably going to be more interested in the £100 one, especially because the new smaller Lego set has one thing that the older set doesn't have: Darth Malak. Of all the weird things to throw into a Lego set ostensibly aimed at children, Darth Malak, the antagonist of Knights of the Old Republic, a Star Wars game that came out 20 years ago. A game which has somewhat aged in that time, and a game which nobody under the age of 15 knows exists. This set is ostensibly meant to be for 10-year-olds and older, and I can't think of a single 10-year-old who's going to be looking at this and being like, wow, this one's got Darth Malak, that makes it an improvement over the old one. This being the case, it's very clear who this minifigure is for. It is for the grown-ups. It is for the people who love Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Indeed, to a certain extent, that minifigure alone makes this set worth having, even if you've already got the old R2. Yeah, it's nice to have the R2 as well, but that Darth Malak is very appealing. Bear in mind that the Darth Revan minifigure, who is Darth Malak's Sith Master, is phenomenally expensive on the aftermarket. It was released at a time when the LEGO Group was playing around with just little minifigures as gift with purchases for sets, and you had to spend, I think, like £70 or something to get it, and then it immediately rocketed in price as people started realizing just how rare it was. This is a very sought after minifigure, and people will pay for it. And so Darth Malak in this set is going to sell an awful lot of R2-D2s to grown-ups all by himself. Not wanting to give too many details, at some point last year I had a discussion with a LEGO Star Wars designer, and we were talking about a lot of different things, and this particular designer, who will not be mentioned by name, just happened to say in passing that they were a huge fan of Knights of the Old Republic, and I said, oh, I think we should be really good friends. But this is an indication of the kind of people that are building LEGO Star Wars at the moment. They are people who grew up with this in the 90s and the 2000s, and they are now at a point where they can make some influential decisions over what goes into the LEGO set. For example, a Darth Malak that may not necessarily fit with R2-D2 at all, because Darth Malak predates R2-D2 by several millennia. Regardless of the logic that got this minifigure into the set, it is definitely a smart decision, because as said, a lot of people are going to be picking this up for that minifigure alone. And so we have ourselves a situation where a set is ostensibly aimed at 10-year-olds, but is also very clearly aimed at grown-ups. Similarly, the boarding of the Tantive 4 diorama. Now, dioramas have gone through quite a journey over the last little while. They arguably started in earnest with the Dark Trooper Attack diorama set, which features Luke Skywalker and 3 Dark Troopers and a very sparse hallway. There's not a lot of pieces to it. It's a great set for army builders. It's a great set for younger fans who want to play with a lot of different stormtroopers, or dark troopers in this case. It's a fun little play set, but it was never really meant to be a display piece. And yet people kind of jumped on it because it's actually a really neat idea for a display piece. And it feels like as a result of that, the LEGO group said, all right, you like dioramas, here, have some more dioramas. And we got things like the X-Wing rising out of Dagobah Swamp, we got the trash compactor, and we got the Death Star. And of these, we've said in a video previously just how much we love the trash compactor, which we feel is probably the pinnacle of these dioramas. Following on from those, we got 2 more last year, which neither of them were quite as exciting as the first wave, I would say, because just like nothing against the sets themselves, but it's just the scenes that they depicted felt a little less engaging. We had a speeder bike chase and we had the Emperor's throne room, and unlike, say, the trash compactor, these 2 scenes have been given the LEGO treatment so frequently that the dioramas didn't really stand out as anything that we hadn't seen before. I mean, arguably we also get Dagobah fairly regularly, but even that one had a different approach to showing more of the swamp rather than a focus on Yoda's house. And so it did make it something slightly different, whereas both the throne room and the speeder bike chase dioramas really aren't too dissimilar from a playset that we've had over and over and over again in the past, so they didn't bring a lot of new stuff to the table unless you count Luke's hair. Before we go any further, by the way, have you considered the benefits of hitting the subscribe button? Because I know you've not done it yet, and you could do, and you could be getting this face in your notifications regularly. And yeah, no, actually, I understand why you haven't done it yet. I imagine that most LEGO Star Wars fans could draw up a long list of other dioramas they would love to see. But for the most part, it seems like the LEGO group has just moved on from that and is now trying small ships instead. And there's nothing against that because that's a great new approach to take, but it does mean that we're left with a Tantive 4 boarding diorama, which rather than going with the kind of more grown-up, the more developed, the older fan display approach, is instead more of a playset again. It harkens more to the Dark Trooper Attack than it does to, say, the final duel on the Death Star diorama. That said, this new diorama is about twice the size and twice the minifigure count of the previous Dark Trooper Attack diorama. It's the same idea in principle, but fleshed out and given a meatier development, just feeling more like a chunky thing that an older fan or a display fan is going to appreciate just as much as someone who wants something to play with. That said, if you are just here for play, then this set absolutely does something that justifies its larger price point. There are quite a few minifigures in here. Not only have you got Darth Vader and a pair of stormtroopers, you've got several rebel soldiers and Captain Antilles himself. And if that is not enough, here's Fives from the Clone Wars as well. The Clone Wars is not quite as ancient as Knights of the Old Republic, but it is fairly close. And while the cartoon series is definitely accessible to a wider variety of age groups, specifically because it's on Disney+, it is at the point now where kids who are watching this show when it was brand new and would have first been introduced to Fives are now adults themselves and are buying nostalgic LEGO sets. I'm not going to say that there are not 8-year-olds who prefer the original Star Wars A New Hope over more modern Star Wars, and that this set is ideally only for grown-ups, because that's absolutely not true. There are a lot of kids who watch Star Wars now who prefer the classics and the originals because those are very, very good films. That said, the fact that this LEGO set is aimed at fans who are at least 8 years of age and is based on the original Star Wars film from 50 years ago almost, and which comes with a minifigure from a cartoon series which has been going for 20 years, does indicate the broad spectrum of LEGO Star Wars fans. It doesn't matter how old you are, really, this set is intended to appeal to everybody. That's not to say that there aren't LEGO Star Wars sets that are specifically aimed at a younger demographic, for example the Crimson Firehawk and the other Young Jedi Adventures LEGO sets, which are very clearly aimed at a particularly young audience. Again, anybody can play with these sets, that's just who these are targeting with their 4+ age rating. It will therefore be interesting to see whether or not the LEGO Group carries this strategy forward for the rest of the 25th anniversary sets. Perhaps there really is no point in differentiating between different sides of the LEGO Star Wars fandom. Perhaps, no matter who you are, any of these LEGO sets will be fine for you, and we really don't need to see the arbitrary boundaries between different types and different age groups of LEGO Star Wars fans. As evidence, take a look at the packaging design for these two Tantive 4 25th anniversary sets. Seem familiar? Both of them have the same greebling on them, just in a slightly different design. The colouring is the same for both of these greeblings, and that colouring just so happens to make it a little bit more difficult to see the age ratings. The distinction ultimately between the different sides of the LEGO Star Wars fandom are minimal at best. A grown-up can pick up one of these sets and not feel like they're picking up something that's deliberately childish in its design, and a younger Star Wars fan can pick up one of these sets and not worry that it looks a little bit more advanced or complicated, because ultimately any of these sets will do for any particular Star Wars fan. Anyway, that's enough editorializing. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Which of these new 25th anniversary LEGO Star Wars sets are you going to pick up? Do you feel like the age ratings for these sets make a genuine difference one way or the other to which sets you're willing to pay for? Let us know your thoughts, and make sure that if you are going to be making a lego.com purchase in the near future, that you use the QR code which is currently on screen, or the link that is down in the description. It is an affiliate link. It gives us a little bit of a kickback whenever you make a lego.com purchase. Make sure, by the way, that you also go to brickfanatics.com for all of your LEGO news, and make sure that you sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss anything LEGO related ever again. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you.